Fellowship of the Broken, Making Sense of 12-Step Recovery by Angelo. Chapter 15. Caterpillars and Butterflies. We can learn so much about life from studying the natural world, and when it comes to spiritual growth, we can see the potential clearly in the life cycle of a butterfly. As we know, a butterfly begins its life as an egg, grows into a caterpillar, and sheds its skin several times. It then goes through a stage of metamorphosis in a chrysalis and emerges as an imago in the form of a colourful butterfly. Moths, beetles, ants, flies, wasps, and bees all go through a similar cycle of metamorphosis, and collectively such species are termed as holometabolists. There are over 10,000 species of butterflies, 100,000 different moths, 350,000 types of beetles, 12,000 varieties of ants, 120,000 species of flies, 9,000 kinds of wasp, and 20,000 sorts of bees. The proportion of living species that go through holometabolum metamorphosis is estimated in the range 45 to 60%. The life cycle of a butterfly is not unusual. Indeed, transformation through metamorphosis is clearly a common phenomenon in nature, of which human beings are a part. We may one day find that all living species are intended to go through some sort of metamorphosis in their lifetime. Only 1 or 2 butterfly eggs out of 100 live to become adult butterflies. 98% are lost through predators, parasitoids, disease, weather, and other factors. And losses occur during all stages of development, and such losses are necessary, otherwise the numerical population would quickly run out of control. Once the eggs hatch, the tiny caterpillar spends its life eating and growing. The larva sheds its skin 4 or more times as the body grows, until eventually it's ready for the pupa stage. The larva then releases enzymes that break down some parts of the body into raw material to be used in constructing the imago. Other body parts are retained and reused. Finally, the adult butterfly emerges from the chrysalis and lives a completely different life to the one experienced during its previous incarnation as a caterpillar. The amount of time spent at each stage varies considerably between different species, but overall the process is the same. If we imagine for a moment that the caterpillar had a level of consciousness equivalent to a human being, then we can begin to understand why so few humans allow themselves to go through psychic metamorphosis. Life as a caterpillar would be fairly limited. The focus would be on physical growth and survival. Movement and knowledge would be confined to each stage of physical development. Perception would be constricted to the particular locale, and the caterpillar would have no awareness of the world beyond its familiar environment. The idea that it could one day become a butterfly would seem ridiculous. It may see butterflies from time to time, but they would seem strange and beyond comprehension. The caterpillar spends its life consuming resources and trying to be the biggest and best that it can. It sheds its skin periodically and redefines itself as it matures. Gradually, a deep longing emerges to give up life as a caterpillar and experience a more expansive and fulfilling existence. But the idea of going through such a transformation does not seem very appealing at all. The fear of the darkness and pain that might ensue outweighs the inbuilt desire for change. It feels safer to stay with the familiar state rather than risk everything for a future experience that it cannot even imagine. The caterpillar resists the urge to transform and valiantly tries to carry on in its old ways. The more it resists, the more uncomfortable it feels. It tries to find comfort from this suffering in all manner of ways, but nothing seems to satisfy the growing urge for metamorphosis. The suffering intensifies, but still the caterpillar cannot let go. 98% of caterpillars never make it to the chrysalis stage. Their lives end before the miracle of transformation takes place. The few that do submit to the will and wisdom of life emerge with the freedom of flight. Now the world is seen from a completely different perspective, and each butterfly has a unique adventure. Everything is experienced afresh, and many new aspects of the world come into view. The butterfly is so glad and grateful that it had the courage to allow life to complete its natural cycle. Some butterflies try to pass on their experience to the caterpillars that are still trying so hard to live a caterpillar life, but somehow the caterpillars cannot hear or understand what the butterflies are saying. Other butterflies just live as butterflies and leave the caterpillars to make their own choices, and hence endure the inevitable suffering. The butterfly can only know who it really is once it becomes a butterfly. The caterpillar can never know, nor even imagine what is possible. The caterpillar can only experience and know life as a caterpillar. It may hear stories of butterfly life, but they seem either far-fetched or beyond reach. The fear of change is stronger than some obscure heavenly future, however good that future is promised to be. Fortunately, caterpillars are not burdened with the self-centered ego mind of a human. They have no choice. Once they reach a certain stage of maturity, they go through a natural hormonal change, and the process of metamorphosis begins. They do not have the capacity to resist the natural flow of consciousness, and hence life just takes its course. The human mind is the most sophisticated manifestation of life currently known. The personal ego mind has its function in the natural instincts of survival and reproduction. The brain has evolved its capability as a tool of perception and ingenuity, but such development has obscured and veiled the natural flow of consciousness. The mind is intended to be a servant to the individual self, but personal identification has allowed it to become the master. We have individually and collectively lost sight of that which gives rise to our existence in the first place. The human mind is blind to its own source. We think we know best, but actually our knowledge is synthetic and foolish. We create our own problems and then spend lifetimes trying to resolve them without ever realizing that life itself is leading us to metamorphosis. This is the great misconception that is so evident in the world today. As Homo sapiens, we are both human and being. The human is the equivalent of the caterpillar. It is a stage in the natural cycle of life. The being is the equivalent of the butterfly. It is the intended expression of consciousness and completes the life cycle. We create our own suffering by resisting the inbuilt urge for metamorphosis. The urge will grow stronger and stronger until the balance begins to shift from caterpillar to butterfly. A caterpillar cannot think its way into becoming a butterfly. If it spends its life pursuing mind-based understanding, then it will simply remain a caterpillar, albeit with a head full of knowledge. The only way to become a butterfly is to go through the period of transformation, even if it fears doing so. This requires the courage to allow such a transformation to happen. There is no other way.